The first raid blog dropped today, and we got to see the first round of proposals from the JMods. And after posting my community suggestions video about 2 days ago now, I thought it would be a bit of fun idea to look over this and see what we're possibly getting, and just to see where the JMods are at when it comes to potential rewards. The first one is a untradable similar to that of the ancient tablet you get from Chambers, and this would basically just be a teleport item to get back to the raid. It doesn't say that it's going to be used on a necklace, it does say it's going to be an item, so I'm kind of curious if it's just going to be a singular item that we can't mount somewhere like the POH, like the Xerix can, or if it's going to be a Draken's Medallion sort of situation where maybe we can get it from Purdue once we've got it the first time. And hopefully we don't have to wait like a year before that happens. The next one is the Elemental Fragments. These would be an account unlock giving all elemental spells a permanent +2 max hit. Okay, that's honestly kind of nice. That kind of breathes a bit of air into elemental spells after them giving everything elemental weaknesses. I kind of wouldn't have expected anything like that, to be honest. So that's actually kind of neat. It'd take things like Fire Surge up as well. From current base max hit of that is 24. That'd bump it up to 26. So we'd be shredding Frost Dragons just that little bit quicker. So that's actually kind of nice. So everything getting an extra 2 hits would actually be kind of nice. I guess you'd need to get 1 of each to be able to do, so you'd need 4 to get all of them. But I mean, if they're anything like they say where it's similar to the gems from TOA, then they seem like they'd be a pretty quick unlock. The next one is a hybrid melee and mage armor set that honestly kind of looks insane, and Mod Jerv has absolutely smashed it with this. What would essentially be battle monk gear, and that in it itself is kind of sick and seems similar to that of the Edict Enforcer set that I mentioned before. I mean, hey, battle monks are back on the menu, it seems. There are no set effect or fancy passives, just solid stats for these. Now, it's not going to be best in slot for magic or melee, but would be in a position that would be good enough that taking them for less switches somewhere might make you want to take them instead. So taking these instead of something like Oathplate and Ancestral, just to drop your switches down a little bit, might be where they're sort of looking at for this. And I know for me, less switches is always nice, but stat-wise, they've given us a pretty fun mix as well as current sets that they'd compare against. Melee accuracy wise, they'd be more than Bandos, which granted Bandos doesn't have any, but it'd be less than Oathplate and Inquisitor. But it is the first armor set to actually have a stab accuracy bonus. Magic accuracy bonus is sitting just below Ancestral, and they do say that it is by just a smidge, so that's an interesting spot for them to put it in. No negative defense bonuses, which is actually really nice, so you're not going to be a sponge to anything specific while wearing them. Prayer bonus is kind of big too, sitting at 16, which is 2 lower than Proselyte, and pretty big 8 lower than Sunfire, but that being said, it's not prayer specific gear, so having 16 is pretty big actually. Melee strength wise, though it is higher than Bandos and Oathplate with the full set sitting at just 5 melee strength below Torva, you'd get at least 1 max hit if you were to use Torva over this, so it's actually pretty strong in comparison. And magic damage, it's in line with Virtus, but a little bit lower than Ancestral. So overall, the stats are pretty solid for a full hybrid set, and having something that can do both magic and melee, taking it to places like Toa or Chambers could be pretty fun to drop switches down from taking full sets, and instead sporting something like this instead. Again, I'm just a big fan of the art too. The idea of it being magical stone held together with roots is kinda sick, and I'm just a sucker for things that look good, and these just kinda do. The next one is something that I don't think anyone was expecting, and it's the Rondash? The Rondash? And it's a type of shield, or an offhand. An actually interesting offhand that would give the player 2 flat armor, and can store mitigated damage as charges, and then be unleashed as a special attack. I'll throw the stats on screen for this so you can have a better look at them, but honestly, giving us something that provides flat armor is kinda wild. It'd just make you generally more tanky against things, and would reduce incoming melee and range damage by 2, which means things like chip damage would be slightly less, well, chippy, and no one likes dealing with chip damage, so something that provides flat armor would be actually kind of a fun way to negate that. The special is kinda interesting too, and can store up to 20 damage, which can be expelled as a shield bash attack. With the max charge dealing 20 plus 20% damage, giving a max of 24, a guaranteed 24 hits saved up could be a pretty interesting way to speed up some kills for things like Vardorvis, or even raids such as Chambers and trying to finish off a room slightly quicker. If we had the ability to charge it up and then keep those charges, for instance, I guess we'd have to wait to see if we could do that. It could be a kind of a fun way to be able to do that, to keep it charged up and then take somewhere as sort of a finishing device. Next though is a pretty nutty one, and that's dual crossbows. I mean, it's just that. It's just 2 crossbows that fire every 2 ticks. But they do come with a couple of little caveats, and one of those is that, you know, they can't have us having too much fun blasting ruby bolt specs constantly. First one is that it can only fire dual-wield bolts, so current bolts wouldn't work in them, and getting ammo for them would require chiseling down ascension shards from the Fractured Archive. They don't really tell us where these shards will be coming from, so unless they're from a pretty easily obtained skilling source, or just from drops from the raid itself, sustaining them might be a bit of a pain, unless that aforementioned skilling option is available to get the shards. It does look like they're keeping the numbers pretty close to their chest with this one too, because it's not going to be using conventional bolts. It would need some pretty solid balancing to be able to not just be insane, especially with it being 2-tick. Honestly, dual-wielding crossbows and just running and gunning with them sounds kind of fun. And the last one? Well, introducing the Sarket Breaker, and looks just amazing, and it's very reminiscent of the Fractured Chain that I spoke about before too, by 50 Shades of Way. And they do mention that it's actually adapted off of his proposal. And again, Mod Jerv with the artwork, absolutely blessing us with it, and this time we've got a Crush Mega Rare, and it'd have 2 different attack styles. Thrust, which is a 5-tick speed, 3-tile piercing attack, and Smash, a faster 3-tick hard-hitting style. It's got some interesting features. Hitting the same target multiple times would mean hits deal 25% more damage per additional tile hit. This means hitting a 3x3 target will result in a hit that rolls up to 150% damage. 2x2 would be 125, and 1x1 would be 100. Similar to the Scythe, it can also hit up to 3 targets in a single attack, be that in a line or stacked on the same tile. So using this for things like Slayer, if you want it as a single attack, using it at something like Nilocus in Theater of Blood would be an option too. Damage is also rolled multiple times. Effectively, the Breaker rolls a damage dice for every defense higher than Crush on the NPC, meaning if it's weak to Crush, you'll be rolling damage 7 times and then picking the highest result, which kind of feels nuts. We've got the Fang that rolls twice. Well, how about something that rolls up to 7 times? But, you know, it can't all be good, so it does come with a bad bit, and the bad bit on this is Chargescape, which, you know, everyone kind of hates. You'd have to charge this weapon in some way, but they currently haven't decided with what. Just that you'd need to use Ascension Shards that you'd receive from the raid itself, similar to how you charge the Scythe with Vials of Blood from Theater of Blood. So, be it maybe we have to use some sort of rune to charge it, or if it's fire, or maybe even we end up having to use something like Tokkul, given that it's a Tsar-based weapon. Who knows, honestly, but those are the rewards they've proposed, and honestly, they're all kind of sick. They're all incredibly interesting too, and it does kind of show that they've actually put a lot of thought into these, as well as taken quite a lot of advice and they've taken a lot of thought from the community, it seems, with these, and it's kind of nice to see that, because it was kind of worrying originally when they said that they didn't know what to give us. So showing that things from the community have actually been taken into account for this, as well as some ideas from themselves, it's kind of nice knowing that it's gonna be hopefully in a good place where we get something that both looks good and also people want to use. But yeah, that's it. The first round of proposals is out, and we get to see what they're cooking up, and honestly, they're cooking up some good stuff. The shield is an interesting chip damage negation proposal, the crossbows are just run and gun fun, and the Battle Monk style hybrid melee magic armor that could be an alternative to Ancestral, it just looks great. And then we have Sarket Breaker. These are kind of wild to see so soon as well. I wasn't expecting anything to come out with all the events right now, like Deadman All-Stars going on, and they do mention that we probably won't see anything for a couple of weeks now. But overall, things are kind of looking pretty solid, and as not only that, they kind of look very fun. I'd also kind of like to know what you think about them as well, considering like last video where people were speaking about them in the comments. I mean, hey, get to yapping down there again, because these are probably going to keep me entertained now for the next couple of weeks if we don't really get anything else. But yeah, I enjoy talking with you guys about them too and seeing what everyone thinks about it. Some of the other suggestions people gave in the last video were things like combining Void to be able to have less switches, so I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that we might possibly be getting a Battle Monk set, which would propose a mage and a melee gear set, which is kind of fun to see. Sadly, no giant salamander this time, but hey, we can keep holding out on that one. But yeah, get to yapping again, and let's hear some more of your ideas, because honestly, they're all kind of fun to look at and kind of conceptualize. But yeah, if you want to join the Discord, that's down below, and hey, don't forget to like and maybe sub if you feel like it too, and I'll see you guys in the next one.